Hey, I'm gonna talk about the two movies, A Place in the Sun and Rome Adventure. First off, I just watched A Place in the Sun, and it stars Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift, and it's about a poor young man named George Eastman, who gets a job at his wealthy uncle's factory, and he falls in love with a woman named Alice, played by Shelley Winters, who's in a kind of dowdy, plain, deglamorized role. So George has a fling with her, and she ends up getting pregnant. Excuse me. And also, in the midst of this, he also falls in love with a young woman named Angela Vickers, who's a socialite and who comes from a wealthy family. So you have George kind of caught between two worlds, like a plain Jane, vanilla existence, or a rich, kind of stuffy upper crust world with Angela. And this movie was filmed in 1949, and it was actually on the shelf for 2 years until it was released in 1951. It was actually, a version of the movie was actually filmed before, early in the 30s, with a different title, but it did horrible at the box office. So when they filmed the movie again in 1949, they decided to tack a new title, which became A Place in the Sun. And it's based on a famous play called An American Tragedy, which is actually based on a true story. I'm not gonna spoil it though, because if I spoil what it's based on, the real life incident, then it's going to spoil the rest of the movie. I will say that the movie has great acting by Montgomery Clift and Liz Taylor. Montgomery Clift was known for being a handsome young actor. He came out later in his career and also got into a horrible car accident, which disfigured his face and really changed him for the rest of his career and the rest of his life. His career ended in 1966, which was also the same year that he died. He was only age 45. He became an alcoholic, apparently. What's also interesting is he stars with Liz Taylor in this movie, and the two became really good friends, and they have really great chemistry in the movie. And Liz Taylor became a champion for gay rights and AIDS research later in life, and she always supported Montgomery Clift. So, real interesting behind the scenes sort of story about them. Let's see. What's also interesting is that the actress who played George Eastman's mother in the film, Anne Revere, who was related to Paul Revere, she plays Hannah Eastman, George's mom. She actually became on the Hollywood blacklist during the Red Scare because of communism. And back then, you could be blackballed for pretty much anything, if you were suspected homosexual or just things that, are pretty much the norm now, back then could cost you your movie career. And, just kind of a shame how many actors back then, became blacklisted for things like that. The movie is about 122 minutes, so it's about 2 hours long, a little bit over. Like I said, it's a really good movie. It's well filmed. It's in black and white instead of Technicolor, which gives the movie this eerie kind of ambience. And I think really sets the tone for the film. And moving on, I also watched the movie Rome Adventure, which stars Troy Donahue and Suzanne Plesset. And they're basically young people. Suzanne, plays Prudence, who gets fired from her job as a librarian for handing out a romance novel, and she goes to Rome and gets a job at a small bookstore and falls in love with Troy Donahue's character. And his character's name is Don. And it's a really nice movie. It's not a screwball comedy. It's more of like a sweet dramedy. Excuse me. And back then, Troy Donahue was a real teen heartthrob. All the girls went gaga over him back then. I was talking to my mom, and she said, how much she was in love with him back in the day. Rome Adventure came out in 1962, and Troy Donahue was, he became popular in 1959 in the racy movie called A Summer Place, which was about him having an illicit affair with a teenager and kind of feuding between the two families. And Suzanne Plesset is known for her role in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, which is a classic. Let's see, Troy Donahue had issues. He was dropped by Warner Brothers at age 30 in 1966, so he was still relatively young. He became an alcoholic, and he admitted that he was addicted to painkillers, amphetamines, cocaine, and used marijuana. But in 1982, he did join AA at age 46, and he cleaned up his act, and he turned his life around and became sober. But just kind of sad, just how some actors and actresses start out on the top of the world and then end up scraping the bottom of the barrel, or you just never hear about them again. And I think, back in the olden days, the studios had a lot more control of actors, and they basically loaned them out. Like, they didn't always have the choice of what they were going to star in. The studio heads had control of who they were going to be seen with in public, who they would date or marry, especially young homosexual actors were set up with, young starlets back in the day, to improve their image. So just a real interesting contrast between back then and today. And that's about it. I highly recommend A Place in the Sun and Rome Adventure if you're in the mood for two classics. They're well worth checking out. I recently watched them on Turner Classic Movies, so they'll probably air them again if you can find them on Netflix or something. So that's it. Next time I think I might review My Bloody Valentine and April Fool's Day, and I guess I'll see you later. Bye.